This is Korea News for March 17, 2022. From the 7th to the 13th of last week, South Korea was found to be the country with the highest number of new coronavirus cases worldwide. The number of new confirmed cases in Korea this week is also skyrocketing to over 500,000, so it is expected that Korea will have the highest number of new corona cases in the world this week as well. The government is considering a plan to lower the level of corona from a first-class infectious disease to a third-level infectious disease. If this happens, the cost of treatment, which is fully borne by the state, will be partially borne by the confirmed patient. The reason the government wants to downgrade corona's infectious disease class is simple. It is no longer a terrible disease. The main reason for this judgment is the fatality rate of the corona confirmed patients, which has fallen to the level of the seasonal flu. However, the exact timing of application for downgrade of infectious diseases was not separately mentioned. It is known that the number of private gatherings will be increased from 6 to 8 people, and the operating hours of restaurants and cafes will be increased from 11 p.m. to 12 p.m. The government plans to announce an adjustment plan on the 18th after reviewing the opinions of the Daily Restoration Support Committee. Former President Park Geun-hye, who was receiving treatment at the hospital, is expected to be discharged as early as next week. Attention is focused on whether she will issue a message to the public on the day of her discharge. According to former President Park's site on the 16th, it is known that the former president is highly likely to be discharged from hospital within this month and move into his private residence in Dalsonggun, Daegu. Park's discharge date has yet to be confirmed. It is most likely next week, and it is known that there is a possibility that the time may be postponed to the next week. Former President Park has been receiving inpatient treatment at Samsung Seoul Hospital. On the last 5 days, he visited a polling place near the hospital to vote in advance. When former President Park was discharged from the hospital, he announced that he would send a message to the public. It is noteworthy whether this message will contain information about the President-elect Yoon Suk-yeol. Former President Park completed the registration of transfer of ownership of a house located in Dalsonggun, Daegu on the 18th of last month, and 2 days later, a moving vehicle was found in the house to remove the belongings of the original owner of the house. On the 2nd, the moving-in report was completed through an agent, and recently, as the moving goods moved into this house, there was an observation that former President Park's move-in was imminent. Supporters of former President Park will hold a ceremony to welcome former President Park back home at 2 p.m. on the 18th in front of President Park's home. In addition, President-elect Yoon Suk-yeol will visit President Park at an appropriate time in consideration of former President Park's health problems, an aide of the elected President-elect said. At a briefing in the morning, spokeswoman Kim Eun-hye and Yoon Suk-yeol said, the meeting between President Moon and President-elect Yoon, scheduled for today, has been rescheduled as practical consultations have not been completed. She said, consultations at the working level will continue. The Moon Jae-in administration and Yoon-elect did not give an official explanation as to why the meeting was cancelled. In the political world, analysis is being raised that the disagreement between the two sides over the issue of the appointment of heads of public institutions at the end of the regime, including the governor of the Bank of Korea, and the special amnesty of former President Lee Myung-bak and former Jae-yong-nam Governor Kim Kyung-soo led to the failure of the meeting. It was said that the meeting had to be postponed until the next time without being able to narrow the distance on the core issues. The problem is that the two sides have very different positions on these issues, so it seems difficult to find a solution in the short term. First of all, with regard to the appointment of the head of the agency, the People's Power side is of the view that the appointment to be made before the inauguration of the new government should be discussed with Yoon-elect. The reason is that the person who has to work with them is President-elect Yoon. On the other hand, the Blue House is of the view that President Moon can naturally exercise the right to personnel during his term of office. On the 16th, President-elect Yoon Suk-yeol had a surprise kimchi stew luncheon with the aides of the Presidential Transition Committee near his office in Tungidong, Jongno-gu, Seoul. The scheduled luncheon meeting with President Moon at the Blue House was cancelled. President-elect Yoon, who went to the office at 10:50 a.m. that day in a suit, walked to a nearby kimchi stew restaurant at lunchtime with Ahn Cheol-soo, Vice Chairman Kwon Young-se, Planning Chairman Won Hee-ryong, and Secretary General Jang Jae-won. When the President-elect Yoon and his party arrived at the restaurant, other tables were also eating. In response, the elected spokesperson Kim Eun-hye said, in the process of discussing the operation of the Takeover Committee and the keynote of future state affairs, the meeting led to a nearby kimchi stew restaurant. President-elect Yoon and the party finished eating in 20 minutes and took a leisurely stroll around the Tungidong area. It is reported that President-elect Yoon decided on the day's walk on the spot. President-elect Yoon walked about 900 m and greeted other citizens or took selfies. Spokesperson Kim explained that it was actually the first time for Yoon-elect to go on an impromptu walk as a elected president. According to spokesperson Kim, President-elect Yoon said to his staff during a walk with a smile, saying, "I think there are about 10 restaurants where we should go and eat together in 10 minutes. Controversy is spreading with the claim that a man who accidentally ran into a woman who entered the hotel's men's sauna by mistake complained to the hotel, but responded by saying, "It's not a big deal because it's a man." On the 15th, an article titled "A Woman Entered the Hotel's Men's Sauna" was posted on an online community. Author A, who is a member of a fitness center in a 5-star hotel in Korea, said, "After taking a bath, I ran into a woman B, who appeared to be in her 20s or 30s, he said. At the same time, she said that Mr. A said, she froze in an instant because she was not wearing a single thread. At that time, she said that the distance from Mr. B was about 2 to 3 m. At this, Mr. A immediately went to the hotel reception and complained. She said that Mr. B, who was standing in front of the elevator, came up to her when she saw this scene and said that she emphasized that she had no intentions, saying, she turned right away as soon as she saw it. Afterwards, the hotel called Mr. A and said that she apologized, saying, I checked the CCTV and said that it seems that a couple of guests went inside to have a look. However, despite the hotel's apology, Mr. A's complaints were not resolved. Person A said, the more I think about it, the worse it is that Mr. B sees me naked, but it was the atmosphere when I protested at the reception right after the incident. Showing the atmosphere was the worst feeling, he burst out in anger. In addition, Mr. A said, I feel bad and go home, but the more I think about it, the worse the hotel is, and on the other hand, I think about what would have happened if I accidentally entered a women's sauna and came out facing a naked woman head-on. I wrote that it would have ended with a single apology. In addition, Mr. A said, I reported to the police, and filing a complaint will be a tiring process such as hiring a lawyer, but I will make a decision after careful consideration. The reason that the ballistic missile launched by North Korea on the 16th exploded in mid-air in the early stage of ascent seems highly likely due to an engine system failure. It usually takes several months to analyze the cause of an accident, but it is highly likely that North Korea will launch additional ICBM soon as the 110th anniversary of Kim Il-sung's birthday is on the 15th of next month. Military authorities believe that a ballistic missile fired by North Korea from the Pyongyang Sunan airfield around 9:30 am on the same day exploded at an altitude of less than 20 kilometers immediately after launch. This is the result of a primary synthesis of information obtained from South Korea's information gathering means, such as the U.S. early warning satellite and ballistic missile early warning radar. The military authorities are said to be analyzing the possibility of an ICBM test launch again, given that the missile was launched from the Sunan airfield, where North Korea conducted flight performance tests of the Hwasong-17 type ICBM on the 27th and the 5th of last month. On the 17th, North Korean propaganda media slammed the People's Power, saying, "You can't let it go." North Korea's propaganda media are People reported on the same day, it doesn't matter how the election was conducted in South Korea, what became a matter of controversy, or which party won, but they pour out all kinds of gossip about us and express their intentions to harm others. I can never let it go and let it go, he said. Our people said, we shake so-called security like a signboard, risk our own people from time to time, and talk about threats and provocations that nobody else has, and without hesitation the gangs of the People's Power who go wild like wolves, even preemptive strikes against us, without hesitation. He said that the dangerous ugliness of the Conservative Party, who rumbled and shook the fuse of the North Korean invasion, aroused the astonishment and soaring anger of the whole Korean people. He continued, just as ivory cannot come out of a mouth, a rebel party like the Power of the People who, fascinated by power ambitions and confrontation with their fellows, does not care at all about the peace and stability of the Korean peninsula and the lives of the South Korean people, it is a shame and disgrace for the South Korean people. He criticized it as a street and the biggest trouble for the whole nation. The media said, I am extremely anxious and troubled because Russia, which has designated South Korea as a non-friendly country, will harass them by pushing fighter jets into the anti-aircraft identification zone or conducting maritime exercises around the Korean peninsula. He said it was a worthy bongbaean in turn for the special servants. He continued, the current authorities in South Korea vehemently criticized Moon Jae-in and his gang for bringing in that from the beginning of his term in 2017 and then losing his mind. Thank you for watching today. Please like and subscribe.